Hey guys, stoked to announce that Revelation Records will be sponsoring the next 5 podcasts, 5 episodes with Revelation Records. Thank you guys so much for your support. Thank you for the amazing soundtrack of my youth. Revelation Records has put out some of the most classic hardcore records in history. Some of the most iconic photos by BJ Pappas are on most of those albums. And most of my friends' bands have put records on Revelation Records. A lot of hardcore history. And I'm super stoked that they're part of the One Life One Chance podcast for the next 5 episodes. The ad is coming up next, and it's fucking loud, and it's awesome.
Hey, this is Sam Sumataro. I sing for a band called Drain from Santa Cruz, California. I'm here to tell you about our debut record called California Cursed, now available on Revelation Records. This summer, we're going on tour with Go to RevelationRecords.com for more. And here's 4 seconds of what we sound like. I'm stoked to be part of the Revelation family. Let's take the remaining 26 seconds to dive into what it means and what's up at Rev. Revelation kicked things off in New York City in 1987 with Warzone, Lower East Side Crew. After that, Gorilla Biscuits, Youth of Today, Judge, Inside Out, Chain of Strength, and many more. The times changed in the early 90s, and Rev was there, with artists like Quicksand, Texas Is the Reason, Farside, and Into Another. There's new music from World Be Free, Constant Elevation, Urban Sprawl, Dare, and reissues of the classics from Inside Out, Side by Side, and Orange 9mm. Check out the Spotify playlist series. It's all at RevelationRecords.com.
Is this new for you?
Oh my god, yeah, it totally is. I drank coffee for the whole month of December, and it made me totally insane. My wife loved it. She's like, "Oh my god, it's your first drug. I love seeing you addicted to something." And it would make me like totally hyper and dehydrated, and then like have to take a nap. And then I quit it on January 3rd, and then on my birthday, in April, my son's like, "Have a coffee with me. It's your birthday," and I had a coffee, and it just totally fucked up my birthday. So now since I'm on lockdown, like, who cares anymore? I don't even care anymore. I'm just gonna drink coffee. I like it. I like it, you know.
So I went the other way, man. I went the other way. I've been, let's see, I gotta say 30 years of drinking coffee probably.
Damn.
And I finally stopped in February. And
wow.
It's been rough. It was rough for a while there.
Headaches and stuff?
Headaches, like total withdrawal, like real withdrawal symptoms, you know. But I thought, like, the thing was, I thought, like, oh, okay, now I'll sleep great. And it took like, I think it took like 2.5 months before like that part kicked in. I thought it would be like immediate.
So what is your new thing now to drink? Like just tea or something?
Yeah, no caffeine at all.
Wow.
So like I'll have like herbal tea. So I'm off. We'll see how long it lasts.
And you feel better? You feel different now?
I don't know, but I do think this is like, if I was home, like stuck home like we are now, and I was drinking as much coffee as I did, I'd be going crazy with worry. It'd just be fueling all this worry that I have naturally.
Yeah, it gives you anxiety kind of, right?
Man, like it gives me this weird, like, I love that what do I love about coffee is it like makes you energized to be creative. It makes you energized to do it. Kind of just narrows your focus and supercharges it.
I agree.
I'm gonna get this done. But then when there's like, so what? Like right now, what are you gonna get done, and like for what purpose?
Yeah.
Like what? That's so urgent. Like if there's something that gets done, let's enjoy it. If something needs to get done, like let's take a while on it because there's nothing else to fucking do.
True.
So I'm happy about that. But the other weird thing is I stopped. Like I have these anxiety meds I've been on for a couple of years now, and I was like, well, you know, I was talking to my doctor last year, and I was like, I'd really like to like get off those. He's like, all right, let's write a plan. It was like a weaning plan.
Wow.
And I am almost off them, and I'm basically off them.
That's amazing, man.
So this is the true test, because shit is, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling tense right now.
Totally. I'm excited because they just announced that Runyon Canyon's open, and Runyon Canyon, besides seeing my friends and going out to lunches and go to my favorite food spots, that's like my salvation. Like Runyon Canyon's my favorite hike spot. I bring my dog there every day. It's my ritual. It's my daily routine, and it just opened. And I'm gonna go there today. There's like a new thing where there's like a capacity now there, and you go and you have to wear a mask again. There's rangers there. I just want to check out the vibes. I'm not sure if I'm gonna get into it fully every single day like I used to do. I'll wait a couple weeks, but I want to see what it's like right now. You know, it's gonna be interesting.
Is like the compliance there with people pretty high? Because it's not here in Tennessee.
People here are like masked up. I mean, you can see by the numbers, and people are saying that California is a state that people are kind of looking at for the ones that really flatten the curve, if you would say. And and we're like spread out over here. We're not on top of each other. It's pretty spread out. But yeah, it seems like California did really well with that. Like the numbers are showing that. But I don't even know anymore, dude. I read so much shit. I have so many friends that like either are conspiracy theories into that, or they don't believe it, or they've had friends who've had it. Like, I don't know anybody personally. Like, it's a close friend that had it. I know friends of friends who've had it. So there's just so much information. It's just, it weighs on your mind. And for 3 months, you're just reading all this stuff, man. It's just, it's so much to take in, man.
I mean, the conspiracy theories and all that stuff, the validity of the theory notwithstanding. I'm not calling people into question for like wanting to hunt up a theory and like get educated themselves.
Yeah.
But I think people are like starting like with the opposite of the scientific method. Like they're stating their belief and then finding all the evidence that points to that.
Yeah.
Instead of just like finding the evidence and seeing where it points.
Yeah.
And honestly, you know, they might be right, they might be wrong. I mean, I think the evidence is stacked in the like, this is a natural occurrence. It's unfortunate, and we have to band together to be smart about this as a society and a world society.
Yeah.
But you know, you also like sort of need comfort. And so where I'll like lighten up on judgment instantly with people is when they're looking for just some kind of comfort.
Yeah.
And like, so if they're like, this has to be, like, there's that one. Oh, well, let's not talk about this specific. I don't want to talk about the specifics. I hate giving all like credence when I'm talking to my friends to these things. I don't know enough about them, I guess, to even. But you know, there's ones that say it was totally accidentally leaked from a factory somehow. You know, for bad practices. Like that one is at least like there's some. It's plausible. Mm-hmm. I don't know that happened, but I doubt that it happened. Frankly, I don't think it happened at all. But at least it's a plausible one. Yeah. And if that like is like, that's the big scary monster in the room for the people that need one, mm-hmm. as opposed to like, dude, the world's just scary. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah. And they need some comfort there. That's fine. Yeah. But the fact is like, it's here, you know?
Yeah. It's nothing we do. We're all on lockdown. The economy's fucked. Doesn't matter what you do. You're at home. Like there's nothing you could do. These are what's happening now. It doesn't matter what you believe, who you voted for, if you think it was a bat, if you think it was chemical warfare, whatever you believe, we're all in this together right now. We're all like sitting at home. You know what I mean? It's kind of, and
it's like a great equalizer, you know? So we all have to behave the same way, like whether you're, not that they do, but like we all should be behaving the same way, whether you're super rich or you have nothing, whether you know, it doesn't care about, it's a virus. It doesn't care about races. It doesn't care about genders. It doesn't care about, it doesn't care if you're straight or gay or anything else. It doesn't care about your belief system at all.
Nothing.
But then what bothers me then is like, okay, so let's just all kind of like agree that this is uncomfortable and do it together. Mm-hmm. As a like stand like this, the grandstanding that I'm seeing, like I wear a mask, and where I live, I think this is probably different than where you live. I think people get the side eye where you live if they're not wearing a mask. Yes. But people get the side eye here if you are wearing a mask. I'm not saying people are like, fuck this guy. Hey, what's your problem? I mean, I've never been called out. Yeah. But I think people inadvertently, without meaning to, are making me feel uncomfortable for kind of going along with the rules that are in place. Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, but that's without judgment. Everybody's scared.
Totally.
And
I'm
scared too.
Yeah, somebody called me out. They're like, "Oh, I thought you were punk rock. You wearing a mask." I'm like, "Yo, I have a kid, and my kid's scared too, and I'm setting an example. And I'm being good in my community. we've been, my wife's been tested, my son's been tested. It's like, I know we're healthy, but just out of respect for other people, it's just a mask. I wear it. I don't like to wear it, but I wear it because I'm trying to be good in society with my community and be respectful of others and people that could, you know what I mean? Like it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I don't see what's not punk about that. I mean, I don't imagine a giant fucking lip ring is like comfortable, like a spacer on your lip. I don't know. Like, what about trying is not punk rock? I don't get that.
I know. It's just like, I don't know. It's just people, they're like, you should read it. And I mean, I've read everything. I've read so much stuff. I'm just like done reading about it. And I'm excited to go and go hiking and just ease back into normal life, hopefully. How long that's going to take or what that's going to look like. But as far as like music's concerned and the future of that, that's a little bit stressful.
Daunting right now. This landscape is hard to see. We just don't know. Like guys like you and me that live a different life than we are right now. Like most people are used to being home, at least home every day. Not like the home the entirety of the day, but they are in their home every day. Yeah. I think you and I have spent our lives like not understanding what that's really like, even though we've had stretches of it in our life.
Totally.
And so that's been a little bit weird for me. And like, obviously like my livelihood is in question well, that's the question. How long is our livelihood going to be a question? Yeah.
They just announced phase 3 here. I guess phase 4 is concerts and stuff. I don't know when it's going to happen. I just don't know. I don't know if the first show is going to be amazing or it's going to be totally strange and only a certain amount of people allowed to be in a venue or 6 feet apart or.
I guess it'll be both, won't it?
Yeah.
It'll be weird as shit, but it'll be amazing because at least it's a show, But it'll be so weird.
Yeah. But people are probably so excited. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure people are so excited to see a live concert. And it definitely, I never took it for granted, and I appreciate it. I love touring. I love being able to do music. But I've never missed it so much in my life, man. And when you go on tour and you're so excited to go on tour and you get on the road and you're like, damn, I miss my wife and my kid. I love what I do, but I want to be home too. And now we're home for such a long, and I was like, oh my God, I do anything to play a show, man.
Were you out on the road? Did you get pulled off the road?
I wasn't on the road, but I had like my 50th birthday shows in New York, 3 shows sold out, 2 New Jersey, 1 New York. And then we had these 6 shows with Gorilla Biscuits, all sold out in California. And that's just gone. And then I moved my shows to July. And as of yesterday, the promoter's like, we're not canceling the shows in July. We're going to see what happens. It could change. It could not. And then maybe we'll just move them again. But it's just, and then we had our summer Europe tour. We go to Europe every summer for festivals for 3 weeks. I bring my son. It's the first time ever in 25 years I'm not going to Europe for a summer tour. So, but yeah, man, it's just, I wasn't on the road when it happened, but did you have a lot of stuff planned for this year?
Yeah, so we were pulled off the road. We were, it's our 20th anniversary of the band for us.
Okay.
So we had a 18-month plan, and about a quarter of that was already on sale, and most of it was sold out already. And we were on a sold-out tour. Like the first leg was the U.S. The first U.S. tour. We had 3 U.S. tour plans. The rest of the world, Canada, well, as if that's not the rest of the world, but we had a Canadian run, and then I had the Southeast Asia, had Europe, Australia, you name it, everywhere, South America. It was all routed, booked, and completed. And some of it wasn't on sale or announced. Some of it was. But yeah, we had the whole thing going, and it was, and we intentionally, this is the tough one for just being in a band, it's like running a mom and pop small business. Yeah. So, I have people that work for us. You do too. That we want to take care of. Of course, we have our own families, and everybody has their own families. Yep. I'm concerned about them. They're part of our extended family and my own, and so it's been that was a tough blow, because we had taken, knowing we were going to go so full bore on this 20-year anniversary. Yeah. We didn't work hardly at all last year. Okay. We stayed home almost all of last year. I mean, we were working a lot. I made a record that will now probably come out next year. I I made a record, and wrote and recorded a record. I have made we did a ton of like festivals, but not any proper tours. We just tried to stay out of people's faces for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it was a scattershot year, and I had to like, pull from this to pay for that to make sure everybody got paid and was employed and nobody backslid. And I didn't expect this year to hand us the same thing. But hey, that's a problem that everybody in the world is facing. Like
totally.
And so I guess that shared concern has given me relief. Like, it's not just me. Everybody's doing so well, and I'm like, I can't seem to find work. That's not. We've all been in that place.
Yeah.
And this isn't that. It's certainly a concern, and I'm worried, just like most people. But hey, man, we're all in this. We're all feeling this thing. It's communal, and it makes it a little bit easier to deal with.
Yeah, it's not like they just cancel music and that's it. That was the only thing affected was like playing live show. You know what I mean? It's like, it's everything. So,
but that's been the biggest blow. I gotta be honest with you, because I know you still do, and I still I go to shows all the time. I love shows.
Yeah.
It just, whatever that thing that got its fingers in me when I was a teenager, it just never let go. And so, like, where do you turn when that's your relief? Like, I'm not talking about playing by your own show on stage.
Yeah.
So, I go every week. There's 3 shows I go to, and maybe more some weeks. I live in a great show area. So do you. Yeah. And so, and always have. Well, not always have, but once I moved to Florida, that was like part of my culture from, I don't know, 15, 16 on.
Yeah.
And that part of my, like, the therapy of live music is gone.
Yeah.
So that's a little tough.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, you don't realize how much effect it has on you. Just going to be in a crowd of people, going with your friends, going to see new music or going to see bands that you loved. You don't think about that because we have so many shows that sometimes, I'm not going to go to that show tonight, or I'll go to that one, or, you know what I mean? Not we take it for granted, but there's so many shows happening where we live. And now it's just like, damn, just if I could have one of those, or it's like,
like you like want to see every show, but you just can't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what a treat we didn't realize, like, oh yeah, I'll just catch them next time, because of course they'll be back in 3 months,
Or all,
now,
or all those shows you missed, like when you were on tour and your friends came to town. Oh, I missed that show. I was on tour, like all that stuff. Like, well, let's get to you growing up, because you just mentioned that too, and that's all my stuff here. But you were born in Connecticut?
Yeah, I was born in Connecticut, and I was like really close proximity wise, because Connecticut's so small, to so much of the great music that was happening in Connecticut, New York, and Massachusetts. But I didn't know it until I left.
Until you left. Wow.
Until I left, I was like, I grew up in like West Hartford. Well, I went to school in West Hartford. I kind of grew up in different places around Connecticut.
Yeah.
And but basically the Hartford area. I would say like it was just like it was a city, but it's not a big city, and it just wasn't a place where, like, it was one that kind of got skipped over. You'd think because it's a city, like the shows in Connecticut would go to that city. Yeah. There just wasn't a spot for that. Now there's like the Webster. Mm-hmm. But there wasn't, when I was a kid, you had to go to Toad's in New Haven.
Toad's Place, yeah.
Or like, or you had to go to New London, or you had to go into Massachusetts. And I didn't really, even though I was starting to kind of get into punk rock, mostly through metal and hip hop. Nice. And like, the t-shirts you might see like these guys wear in a magazine, like, wait, what's that band? I've never heard of that band. Yeah. And you go to the record store and finger through some stuff and find a cool clerk to tell you something. I had that going for me, but it just wasn't even though I was a skater, it was like those guys all listened to like the Dead and and like Hendrix, and they were like smoking a lot of weed, and maybe that's part of the music culture they were into was the weed, because I think like the weed predicated the music culture, and I wasn't into that stuff. Like the drugs and drinking didn't interest me. Yeah. I was young, I was green, and I was hanging out with older kids, and like there was an element of like freedom and danger to that, but that seemed like, oh well, yeah, that's maybe a bridge too far.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was in me that just felt like I'm not comfortable with that. But I didn't know about the straight edge scene. I didn't know that like, oh, there's like a cool brotherhood or sisterhood of, you know, a family vibe to this thing called straight edge. I didn't know anything about that. It was just like, oh, guess, you know, I'm a fucking dweeb.
Yeah.
I don't do that shit, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I moved, my folks, my mom got a job in, was it my stepdad? No, my mom got a job in Florida.
Yeah.
And kind of abruptly moved us. And it was, I gotta say, I gotta be honest with you, Toby, I wasn't like that gracious. I mean, I don't know what 15, 16-year-old kid is super gracious about that kind of thing. Like I got yanked out. I was a total misfit in school. I got like fucking beat up all the time. I got, in all these fights, I got ostracized almost completely based on two factors. One, I was born with 2-color hair and still have it, you know? And
I didn't know that. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I got this, like, when I keep it short, it's hard to notice, but like now my hair is long, you can see. I've got this big, like, blonde streak in the middle of my head, which, like, you got to remember, like, the movie Gremlins came out when I was a kid, and like, so I got called Stripe from then on, and you know, it's just fine. It's like not that mean of a nickname or anything like that, but it's just like pilot on, you know. I was like, let's face it, dude, I was like an artsy kid. I was probably a little like cerebral. I played some sports, but I didn't like fit in. Yeah. But then I started skateboarding, which, like, I know a lot of people that listen to your podcast are our age, but a lot of them also aren't. And so for guys like from like probably, I don't know, late 30s up, they know that like skateboarding was seriously not the way to get girls, was seriously not cool. I've heard you talk about this on the podcast too. For sure. And in real life, you know, I know that you skated, and like, it was like not this, yo, those guys skate. How? Let's go talk to them. No way, man. Yeah. Or you're just like these dirty, like, you know, you'd have like, you know, asphalt and tar stains all over your clothes. You're sweating. The tricks everything was different. You know, things were hard, and there was no credit given to them. You know, like no reward other than the skating itself. But I found my identity, man. So right before we moved, I had really started skating. So a few things happened at once. I really started skating, and I got good really fast. Nice. That's the first thing that ever like just naturally unfolded for me. Yeah. And as a guy who like, as a kid who like grew up like looking for my thing, because I knew it wasn't going to be like other people. Yeah. I just wasn't able to make friends in that way. I wasn't lonely. I'm not trying to put it off like that, but you know, like I just was a weirdo. I was like, once I found my thing later as being like this songwriter and musician and counterculturist in some fashion, I found all my people, man. There's so many of us. Yeah. But you don't know that when you're growing up in a basically small town adjacent to a dead city. Yeah. Did you have brothers and sisters too, or no? Yeah. Yeah. I've got like a big, like 90s style family with like full blood brothers and full brothers and half sister and step brothers and sisters and all that shit, you know, like, but I have one full brother. Yeah. And then, so he and I have obviously the longest history together, but it was my stepbrother that brought the skateboard into the house and was like, check this out. That's cool. I started skating with him, Bill, you know, like Nick and I, my full brother, Nick and I, like we're inseparable to this day. Like, that's awesome. We're extensions of each other's minds, you know? Yeah. I wish I was as smart as that kid, but you know, what are you gonna do? Did music come with the skateboarding, or the punk music came after skateboarding? So it came after, but kind of during, because Bill, my stepbrother, was also kind of had a guitar. I think he had a guitar, but I felt like we always borrowed shit. But I think he had his own guitar. He did. Yeah, he did. Oh, he did. He had a Carvin. It was like a super metal guitar. Nice. And he was into like Sepultura and I think all the thrash stuff. Yeah. You know, like Metallica. Oh, you know, old Metallica was still super thrash. Yeah. And speed metal and that kind of stuff. And my brother and I were into the hip hop that we were exposed to because it was so happening at that time, but it's still like, we went to a heavily integrated school. Yeah. And so, I don't know, I hate the way this sounds, but like, I don't know, we didn't choose that. We were like, most of our friends were the black kids. It wasn't like, oh, well, you know, you kind of don't choose your friends based by that when you're obviously ever in your life.
No.
But somehow or another, like it wasn't by virtue of like which bus we were on, or which classes we were in. We ended up with I guess both of us, mostly black friends. So that was our influx of music. And so we were like borrowing tapes from those kids, and mostly their older brothers and sisters. We're giving it to them and like just giving it down to the rest of us.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, you were so close to New York too.
Yeah, so like, but I didn't know like that's where all this was coming from.
Gotcha.
And I venture to guess like a lot of this stuff, if it was their older brother or sister that was giving it to us directly, they would have given us the history.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is from this area and it's like influenced by this or that. But instead it was just like my brother said, listen to this. Let's go listen to it. And that's it. You get just a piece of the story. So I had like this, I had 1 or 2 pieces of the puzzle, 5 or 6 pieces of the puzzle, but I didn't have the whole picture. But it was super fun. It was like, this deep dive. Yeah. And we loved it. We loved it. I love I can hear the influence of those days and the fact that, I can hear it all over punk rock, but especially like the hardcore scene. Yeah. It's so evident to me, especially in the cadence of the lyrical delivery. Mm-hmm. And that's true of mine too, I think, where it's like a little bit rapid fire, a lot of words, a lot of fucking words.
A lot of words.
Didn't realize till much, much later, you don't always need so many words. But they sounded like, almost like a drum kit to me. Yeah, yeah. So I like that bit. Yeah, but the skateboarding and the music and my cousin was cleaning out her basement for her dad sent her on this, I think, punishment to clean out the basement or something. And her best friend, who I had this massive crush on, they went downstairs and they cleaned it out and they pulled out a guitar. And the friend said, I think your cousin Chris would want to play that. Nobody knows where this guitar came from, Toby. Nobody in my family ever played any instruments. My mom played like classical piano, but nobody played any guitar that I'd seen. Yeah. And they pulled me upstairs and they gave me the guitar and they were like, try to play something. And I didn't know what to do with the thing. And I remember the friend put a Violent Femmes song on. And
love Violent Femmes.
Yeah, me too. And Blister in the Sun was the song.
Yeah.
It was on probably a cassette single, I got to imagine.
Yes.
And I just played it. Like I sounded out a couple notes and then I was, you do this. And I was like, I guess this is how people learn, I'm sure, right?
How old were you?
I have no concept, right?
Yeah.
15, probably 14 or 15.
That's awesome.
Maybe 13, 14, 15. And I played that out and they kind of looked at me amazed. But to have like a girl look at me amazed for something, it was like, yo, I'm going to do this. I want to do this. It was, you want to talk about a gateway drug. That was a moment for me. And, I don't even mean that in a misogynistic way at all.
I know.
It's like, I don't think it's misogynistic when you can't get girls ever. Yeah. And some girl gives you attention for the first time. You've been dying for this girl. It was just this moment of like, it wasn't like, I'm going to use this. It was just like, oh, this is the piece I need to like give me the confidence to be normal and approachable and maybe approach people, like not just girls, just like maybe I can communicate through this thing, which is the big thing, right?
Yes. So you're all self-taught. You didn't take any lessons after that?
No, I didn't. Oh, I did take lessons.
Okay.
But it was like when I was like 30, I decided like, a piece of the puzzle I skipped here that like,
tell me,
I've never missed or anything like that was like taking lessons. And I didn't even so much want the lessons, but I was like, I wonder what it felt like to go and be like that 12-year-old kid that goes and sits and waits to be called at the music store. So I took a few lessons and I sat next to the guys at the music store. And it was cool. Like that store had posters of like, the first thing I saw when I walked into like a little lesson part was this giant like Newfound Glory poster staring at me. Just like, it's like, well, all things being equal, like I grew up with these kids and they're facing me on the wall and I like we've done okay together and, but this is cool. So I did a handful of lessons with these guys and I totally learned a lot. Like it was simple stuff like like, hey, this is pick articulation. Hey, you've got everything down here. What are you doing here? But let's focus on some mechanics.
Yeah.
But it was fun to like kind of sit with these other, like, I'm a nerd, with these other nerds, like just trying to figure out,
Yeah.
oh yeah, what are you going to study this week? Cool. Oh yeah, I've got this. I did my homework. You know, I was
awesome.
psyched.
Yeah.
And then when I remember, like, I was like, hey guys, you know, I enjoyed this exercise. I said to the instructor and the owner of the place, I'm like, you know, I appreciate this. You guys have been playing a long time. This has really helped. But, you know, I think I'm going to continue with self-study. And they were like, cool. Does that mean we can put your poster back up?
That's amazing.
Yeah, they had pretended not to know who I was at all.
That is cool.
That's pretty sick, because they knew what I was there for, and they allowed me to do it. I thought that was great.
So when you moved from Connecticut to Florida, were you super bummed?
I was super bummed.
Yeah.
I had started dating that girl.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I was
Nice.
like really like in love in that way that you can be when you're young, you know?
Totally. Yeah.
And so yeah, I was busted up about it. And I'll be real honest, I wasn't really nice about it with my mom, my ever suffering mother, who's like so kind and like the greatest, and like all she's done her entirety of her life is like try to raise our station in life and give us a quality of life that's better than she started with when she had us. And she's done an incredible job of that, man. You know, like we never knew we were poor and never knew it.
That's amazing.
And I think and when we weren't poor anymore, when we were just like regular, maybe lower middle class, like there was no big difference.
Yeah.
And you know, my mom just kept working and she, you know, she's a tiny little lady and she rules with an iron fist.
Yeah.
And she had all these boys, and she, you know, she had this, like I said, real 90s family dynamic. And so she became like this, you know, I can remember her like railing against my brother Bill, who's like over 6 feet tall, and my tiny mom pointing in that finger in his face, like,
Damn.
hey, try it. Come on, try it. And, you know, the lessons we learned from my Italian mother, you know,
Awesome.
my Italian mother who yelled at us in Spanish.
Oh,
all
wow.
the time.
Really?
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, so I would say my apologies, Mom. You were right. The move was great for the family.
Yeah.
And I should have been easier. And I came clean pretty soon after. I said, because I moved to Florida, and I was like, I had just fallen in with the skaters. I really started developing a heavy appreciation for hip hop, and like,
it's cool.
And like maybe some of the punk rock stuff was kind of like getting in through the hip hop connection.
Yeah.
And I had one kid that did give me, like, just before I moved, because we moved right in the middle of the summer. So like the last couple weeks of school, there was this kid who, dude, you're gonna love this. This kid who was like, hey, you look like you like music. And he was in the back of the bus. I never sat in the back of the bus. It wasn't cool. And I wasn't a senior. And this guy's like, come back here. Let's talk. And I talked about hip hop. And then he was like, well, what about punk rock? I was like, well, you know, I've heard like Agent Orange and TSOL.
Yeah.
And I've heard the Sex Pistols, and I don't think I had like any records of theirs. And
yeah,
it was really rudimentary stuff. And he was like, well, check this out. There are other bands in the world like that are less world renowned that are like just as important. And he kind of like, you know, he gave me a few names. I wish I could remember which bands they were, but I remember seeing the names again later when I got to Florida and I started really getting exposed to it. Oh, this is what he was talking about. So he planted this seed. The other one was, he was like, you should also listen to Dylan, man, because you got to listen to these guys that like came in and shook up the culture, because that's punk rock before there was punk rock. And I was like, but Dylan, but like my mom likes Dylan. He's like, yeah, but that doesn't mean she wasn't counterculture. I was like, your mom's maybe just a mom, not just a mom, but, you know, like, you know, and, you know, walking her walk right now.
Yeah.
But, you know, in her youth, she may have been super counterculture. It gave me a new appreciation for my mom.
That's cool.
And so, but that guy is this super mega producer now in Hollywood, and he makes The Good Place and Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and
oh wow,
he was one of the executive producers of The Office, and he created Parks and Rec, and he played Cousin Mose on The Office.
That's crazy. And so, are you still friends with him?
No, man, I haven't seen him since the end of high school. I know he wouldn't remember me from Adam. That's why I wouldn't like bother him with like, hey, you're famous. We knew each other for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, wouldn't it be cool if you remembered that? Because there's no
Yeah.
way he remembered that. But I see him on there, and I'm like, I know that guy. I know that was the guy.
That is really
And
cool, man.
honestly, like the other memories are hazy. Was it the bus or was it the gym?
Mm-hmm.
Was it this or that? But
Yeah.
the guy himself was really clear to me because I remember, because I have the yearbook.
Yeah.
So
You have to prove it.
I went and looked him up, before he was even famous. When I was living in Florida, I would flip through my yearbook because it was just the only way I could connect with my old friends, and I'd see his face and be like, "That's the dude." Anyway, he
That's
went on to be
wild.
awesome.
That's
So
really
I moved
cool.
to Florida. I'm 15 or 16, and it's almost instantaneous paradigm shift because
Totally.
I get to Florida, and skateboarding's been cool for decades there.
Yeah. Famous skate
Not
parks.
cool the way, not, yeah. I still didn't, although parks were closed when we moved there. It was that dip,
Yeah, yeah, okay.
So I still don't know how to skate parks. I can skate the hell out of street. I look at a gravelly staircase with a terrible run up and just nothing but gravel in the bottom. And I'm like, yeah, okay, let's skate here. But I go to the smoothest skate park and I'm like, what do you do?
I think is it Kona? It's Kona Skate Park there or something? Kona?
I don't even know because
Yeah.
there was where I lived, there was no. It was everything was closed there. This is Fort Lauderdale to West Palm Beach. It's
Gotcha.
my area. Miami to West Palm Beach was my stomping grounds.
Okay.
It was and that's where. Well, I'll skip ahead. Don't skip ahead so fast. But yeah, just to finish this point, it wasn't like now still.
Yeah.
They weren't you're a skater, awesome. Come and here's your community.
Mm-hmm.
That was awesome. That was awesome. You had your community.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you were embraced into a different community because you skated, which is what happens now.
Totally.
You just had that built in, holy crap, there's 10 skaters in the school. There was one other in my school and one from another school where I grew up.
Yeah.
So I had a crew of guys and girls. There was one sick girl skater. Girl, I say not pejorative, but we were young.
Yeah.
She was a ripper. And, I got sponsored by a bunch of stores real quick, or by a store and a bunch of companies put me on their flow list.
That's cool.
Kind of early on. And I was like, wait a minute. Oh, maybe I'm actually good at something. And then when I was in, what I discovered about Florida relatively quick was it fucking pours at 2:00 every afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do? Well, the owner of that skate shop had just threw a bunch of guitars in the area where we would watch the DVDs.
Mm-hmm.
Or VHS at the time.
Skate
VHS.
videos, yeah.
And we were discovering music on the skate videos and getting super jazzed on bands like Operation Ivy and Lifetime. And I can still remember that Fugazi was on one. Maybe that was a surf video. Even Jane's Addiction, they weren't famous yet, but they were on this. They may have been famous yet, but they weren't mainstream that I was knowing about them from people at school.
Yeah.
And it's still my favorite place to discover music is watching clips on Instagram and being what's that song? Love it.
That's cool. Yeah, the Bones Brigade videos, they had Youth Brigade and all those skate rock tapes. That was my first kind of exposure to that on all those old videos, those VHSs, man. And then you wait for the credits and see what the songs are, and so cool.
Yeah, they were great. And then the ones that came out, the one that was the big shifting point for music for me though, where it shifted my focus, I think almost entirely from skating to music, there was a team in the 90s called H Street.
Yeah.
Matt Hensley was on H Street. You know Matt Hensley, right?
Yeah, Floggy Molly, yep.
Yep. And he was this is long before I knew him from being in the band Floggy Molly.
Yeah.
I still don't know him. I don't know him personally. But he was my favorite skater ever. And probably he's still in my, even all these years later, still in my top 10,
That's
maybe
cool.
even top 5. And on that 8th Street video was Operation Ivy everywhere. And so that was the real first piece, because I didn't know what ska was. I didn't know the different sects of pop punk. I certainly didn't know what ska was at all. Yeah. And I never identified them as ska, even though I think they were ska punk, but I didn't know what the ska piece was.
Mm-hmm.
But they were so ferocious, such a ferocity and messiness. And even the recording is just sloppy as fuck, and it's so good.
So good.
And so then I dove into all the Lookout stuff.
Got you.
And then I think then I started meeting people because I started going to shows. That's the thing about moving to Florida that I didn't have in Connecticut. There was no shows, as I said before.
Yeah.
I started going to shows, and I almost immediately met my future like lifer friends. Like my buddy John Owens, who's like this great unsung hero of South Florida. He would go on to be in some bands that got almost some great notoriety, like Seville was probably the best of them. But he was in so many bands, but more, even if you'd never been in a band, he was kind of a galvanizing figure in the scene.
That's cool.
For the youngest members of the scene.
Yeah.
I mean, there were guys above us, but he was the only guy that they would talk to. And once he got the nod, he could bring us all in to be educated by guys like Mike Tension and the guys in Strong Arm and those and these scene leader guys.
Okay.
They were a bit older than us, at least in their involvement in the scene. I don't know if they were chronologically older than us, but they'd been in the scene. And Damien from As Friends Rust was Culture at the time,
Yep.
And then we found other really young kids like us. I remember meeting Chad and Jordan. Maybe the first or second week that I lived there, and I was like, oh my God, other kids my age are here.
Yeah.
And and I didn't realize I was meeting these people that I would know forever, and that Chad and I would stay so close, and we keep moving to the same cities together and everything.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that was an incredible stroke of luck. My mom had a plan,
Yeah.
But you can't see that shit when you're young and pubescent and myopic. You're just kind of I want things to work out the way I want them to work out. That's not life.
Yeah. Exactly.
And oftentimes because they don't, it works out better, right?
Yeah. 100%. When I lived in Newport, Rhode Island, that's where my mom, after my dad died, my mom was raising 3 boys, and I got into skateboarding and punk rock, and my best friend, John Jones, his brother was Chris Jones, and he sang in this band Verbal Assault, and that's where I really get into punk rock and skateboarding. And then fast forward 4 years later, after middle school, my mom's like, we're going to go to Southern Maryland because I got a job being the manager of an apartment complex. I'm like, we did not want to leave me. My brothers, my older brother Tracy never left, and we refused to go to Southern Maryland. Then we go to Southern Maryland, where it's rebel flags and rednecks and racism, and we're the only skaters in our school, and people are picking on us and talking shit. Every day we get in fights. We meet Rusty Pistachio. He's our protector. But then from that, we met Rusty, we met Todd Friend, and then we started going to shows in D.C., which was 40 minutes away. And so that totally changed our lives. But I went to Maryland kicking and screaming, just like you. I did not want to leave my friends, my punk rock skateboard friends. We went thrift shopping after school. But then when I met there, it was just a different chapter in my life, and the timing was perfect that I got to be in the Rhode Island scene and then go and be in this DC Maryland scene, and it was the best thing ever happened to me. But like you said,
it's crazy who you met. Look at who you met there.
Yeah.
That would become the people in your life.
I know Rusty was our maintenance man, and my mom was Rusty's boss. He was the maintenance man, and he was a redneck with a mullet and never even seen a skateboard. And then we totally changed Rusty's life. It's crazy.
You fucked him up.
Yeah, totally. But you don't think about that, and you meet all these people, like you said. Now Rusty's he's became a father figure. He's my band 25 years, but like you said, you met Chad and all these guys who you became friends with in bands together and are still good friends, live in the same area, and that's incredible how that stuff happens, man. It's just timing, I guess, or meant to be. I'm not really, probably a mix of both,
It's a mix of both, man. But I don't think I would have found it ever, just based on age and my own needs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Even though I needed it, I don't think I would have found it where I was. I really don't think so. And I think about that all the time. Because what would have happened? I think I would have look, I'm not straight edge, and I struggle with it. And right now I haven't had a drink in a year and a half, I don't think.
It's awesome.
And I'm not an alcoholic or anything like that, but I have seasons where I just think maybe I'm drinking for the wrong reasons here,
Mm-hmm.
And so no matter what, I always just feel better.
Yeah.
When I met you, I hadn't had a drink in 5 years or something like that, and didn't drink for another 3 years.
On the tour?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Actually, you know what though? I was thinking about this. Anyway, I never claimed it, and I think the claiming of it has been helpful to me, not claiming of it, because I'm not so hard to get on myself.
On
and
yourself,
then, like,
yeah.
When you get hard on yourself, maybe you drink. Don't get into that spiral.
Yeah.
And I just I just stop. And, but I think that honestly, where I was growing up, I have a feeling I would have gone down the wrong path. I have a hunch. And even later when I was in Florida, if the band, right when the band started doing well, I was really not doing well. And I'm talking about Further Seems Forever then.
Okay.
And I was really not doing well. But as soon as the band started to do well, I was like, oh, wait, I've got something that's like way more important than whatever my hangups are here. I've got to deliver for these guys. I better just like try to keep my whole self in order.
Yeah.
And it was a great motivator. But when I was like newly in Florida and I was meeting all these kids, I was exposed to that straight edge scene.
Yeah.
And I found like it wasn't just like the straight edge scene, but all the different subsects of the genre, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of the hardcore scene, which was largely like the umbrella that over all of the South Florida music scene. It was the ethos and the ethics, and the adherence to those that was really appealing to me. I had a huge respect for it. But yeah, dude, I was thinking about this the other day. I can't believe that it took me until like last year to realize this, because I talked to Pete about this, and I'd remembered, of course, that they were there.
Mm-hmm.
But I met you when you were still a roadie for them.
Really? What, early 90s?
Yeah, in the early 90s. I was in, just some terrible punk rock band. Well, actually, we ended up being a really good band eventually, but we were not so good at that point.
Was it Vacant Andes?
Yeah, it was Vacant Andes.
Okay.
And we showed up we go sick of it all. And there was I forget who was on the tour with you guys, but there was a local opener put on the bill that didn't show up. And I worked for that promoter.
Perfect.
Like, passing out flyers and being a loader.
Yeah.
And so I was a loader that day. I was, house loader, bringing in lights and stuff like that. I didn't, like, load your gear in. But later that night, he came to me frantically like, dude, can you get your band here? This band's not showing up. And I was like, I don't think people will care. They'll just get to see the band they love more. But he was really concerned. Like, it was a really good show. It was packed.
Yeah.
For a South Florida show, it was pretty packed. And he just wanted everything to be as he planned it. And so I called up my bandmates, and they all swore they would be there, but the only one that showed up was Owens. John Owens shows up. The other guys got, I don't know, the Bone Break brothers got, their last name is Bone Break, by the way. That's
a cool
not
name.
Like a nickname.
That's
That's Dan, from when we were on tour. He was playing bass in Dashboard.
Okay.
But Dan and his brother showed up. Didn't show up. And they still made us play.
Really?
The guy still made us play. And so it was like, we didn't know what we were doing. And like, so the two guitar players are playing, but John could, like, somebody let us borrow one guitar and somebody let us borrow a bass. So John didn't play bass. We didn't have our band. And the promoter was still like, you got to play. Jesus. But it wasn't so much like, you got to play to bail me out of this. It was like, you got to play to bail me out of this, or you're never playing anywhere in South Florida again.
Damn.
So we did it. And I remember that Pete came up to me afterwards and was like, you got balls? and that's all he said. And it wasn't even like judgmental.
That sounds like somebody said,
he seemed to like get the whole picture.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be up here. I'm doing it because I'm forced to be, but I don't want to let the bands down. I love these bands.
Yeah.
And I don't want to play in front of these people because I want to have a band myself. But up until that was like the closest thing to like a solo show like Dashboard does that I did for like another 10, 15 years or something.
That is crazy, man. You got balls.
That's pretty wild.
That's fucking funny, man.
I met you like briefly, and I remember thinking like, that dude's a cool dude, because you have an air about you. It's part of the frontman thing that you would come to have. But I was like, this guy's cooler than us. I love meeting people and having that feeling like this guy's cooler than us. I love that. Scenes need big brothers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know how much older I just turned 50. Am I a lot older than you?
You're about 5 years older than me.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit, okay.
But that's a lot when you're young.
It totally is. Like, when I think about looking at, like, Christian Assoy and Steve Caballero, who I know now in magazines, they put them on this. They're like way up in these magazines, but they're only a couple years older than me. You think they're like so much older? No.
Yeah, totally.
So Vacant. So let's see. When did Vacant Andy start? Like, how old were you in that band?
I don't know. They started long before I was in the band. But I think I started in that band at 16 or maybe 17. Honestly, my memory of all that shit is a little bit hazy. Could have been a bit older. I don't know.
Yeah, because then you were on the second album, The Agency or something, right?
So my next band after, let's see, how'd it go? Vacant Andy's, there was so much overlap. And all the bands in South Florida, there weren't enough musicians, so everybody was in everybody else's band.
That's cool.
It was cool.
That's a really total cool New York thing. New York bands do that too, for sure.
Oh, yeah. And so I was in, I don't know what order it was in, but I was in like the Vacant Andy's, and I was in Red Letter Day, which was the precursor to As Friends Rust. It's basically that original line. Yep. So it's that original lineup without Damien. And then I was in the first iteration of Shai Hulud with Damien, but like only for 2 practices.
Wow.
And then I was in The Agency, and I was never in Shai Hulud. That Shai Hulud hadn't been a thing yet, but Matt was trying to put together the band that he would want.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was not going to work out in that band, It's too good. They were way too good for me. I don't mean that in like cockiness. I mean, they were way too proficient, and they were doing something that I was nowhere near at the time.
Yeah.
I was happy to just see it for a brief moment. And then I was in then The Agency, and then we started Further.
Yeah,
Further started before The Agency. Hard to remember. And then I started Dashboard while I was in Further.
As a side project, Dashboard. Right?
Yep.
Was Steve Looker in Further Seems Forever too, right?
Steve Looker was in Culture. Was he in Culture?
Okay.
Or was he in Birdville? Oh man, Looker was in. Looker seemed to be in every band, but he wasn't in.
Yeah. Okay.
He wasn't in Further. Further was all the strong arm guys plus Matt from Shai Hulud, until Matt from Shai Hulud was like, "This isn't my thing.
Yeah.
I want only screaming."
Yeah.
And so that was cool because Matt like really knows what he wants,
Yeah, for sure.
Do you know Matt?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So he's kind of a visionary,
Totally.
And he can be like, I guess it can be, if you didn't like look at him the way I did, which is like, dude, this guy is smarter than everybody here. You might think like he's being superior, but he's never ever like that. Just because he can hear all that music in his head.
He's a shredder too. Yeah.
He's like Brian Wilson. He could hear the whole orchestration before anybody had a chance to play their own note. He's like, no, this is how it goes.
Yeah, I think he was ahead of his time with Shai Hulud too. That sound for sure back then. I really think.
So influential. I mean, if you see like, if strong arm influenced Shai Hulud, that influenced Poison the Well, and then on and on and on.
Yeah.
There was a great kind of borrowing of people's sounds and no judgment about it. We're raising the game. We're creating an identity. And then on top of that, I was like the fill-in guy. Oh, Chad is going to be on tour with Newfound Glory. Excuse me. Chad is going to be on tour with Shai Hulud. So what's Newfound going to do for their tour? We'll get Chris to play guitar. That kind of stuff.
What year was that? Do you remember what tour that was? Newfound Glory?
I think it was like 98, 99.
Wow.
99, I think. When would they start? 99?
Yeah, I think around then, yeah.
I think it was their first tour. They did their first tour without Chad.
That's crazy because you're in Shai Hulud.
Yeah. And he wasn't like looking to split. He wasn't looking to like choose. I don't think he ever was, between the two. He made a choice not being Shai Hulud, I think, but I don't think it had to do with because of Newfound Glory, I don't think.
So when you were in high school and you started playing music, what were your goals like when you graduated? Did you want to be a musician or you had other goals?
I had like a kind of cheat planned out.
Okay.
Because I was pretty aware that like the kind of music I wanted to make was never going to be like the kind of music that gave you a career.
Okay.
And I also had this idea that like, who gets those anyway?
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if you made that music, who gets those? And if you get those, you don't get those because while living in South Florida. Mm-hmm. It's just not at that time.
At that time, yeah.
Before there was a boom, but in the when I was before the boom, this is what I was thinking. So I was obsessed with Descendants.
Awesome, greatest.
And I knew the greatest. Your recent episodes with Milo were incredible.
Thank you, man.
And when I spoke, I also befriended those guys by being. Well, it was All at the time, but so I didn't meet Milo too much later. But I befriended Stefan. Yeah. Oh, I love him. But I was a loader at the Hot Water All. Who is it? Hot Water All and Less Than Jake, maybe.
Okay.
Tour, and I was a loader on two of their shows, and I've been friends with Stefan ever since, and to this day we talk almost every day.
That's cool.
So there's no division. I love this scene. Here's these
yeah.
That's the dude from Descendants, and he's talking to a loader.
That's so cool.
It wasn't that he was talking to the guy from Dashboard. I wasn't in Dashboard. I hadn't even found any tight pants yet.
That's amazing.
But there was no division. So my plan was I loved that whole thing where Milo goes to college. Yeah. Milo goes and he becomes a scientist. As
Love
you know
that.
from talking to him, you knew anyway, but he elaborated on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I thought, wait a second. So and then they came back and did Everything Sucks. And I was
Incredible.
like, so wait a second. You can which just blew everybody's mind.
Dude.
It changed punk rock. Absolutely changed punk rock.
That's what I was trying to explain to him on the podcast too. I don't think you realize how much of an impact it had. And I wasn't trying to say it was big in numbers. It was just big in one of the all-time most incredible comeback records after 15 years ever. It was perfect front to back. It's insane.
It's a perfect record.
Yeah. Would you say that? Sorry to cut you off. I know Ramones were poppy and they were pop melodic punk, but they were more like a doo-wop feel. Wouldn't you say Descendants was original, if you want to call it pop punk, because they had these love songs and these melodies that nobody in punk was singing about love songs, man?
Right. I guess what they did was I guess a lot can be said for the Ramones putting melody.
Totally.
In there's never enough that can be said about the Ramones putting melody in punk rock.
Yes.
But Sex Pistols have a lot of melody. And
Sure.
I think the Clash, obviously,
Yep.
Their whole thing is melody. But by and large, the bands that were not on the top echelon,
Yep.
they didn't have a lot of melody. They had fervor and they had angst and they had maybe a political stance. And even the ones that weren't political or that weren't railing against Reagan, maybe they were talking about girls. Maybe they were, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I couldn't hear it because it's had the same tonality, and delivery as Jello might have had,
Yeah, exactly.
And then along comes Descendants, and they don't get the credit they deserve, even though they get a lot. They'll never get enough credit for changing the whole dynamic of punk rock and saying basically to all kids coming from then on, this is as important as anything else. Melody is as important as what you're going to say.
Agreed.
That's what really sunk its teeth into me with Descendants.
And you can be smart. You can wear glasses. You can be into science. You can sing about farts. You can not take yourself so seriously. You don't have to have a political stance or be against everything. All that. They made it just cool for people who thought they were nerds. It's
you even said he made glasses cool in the scene.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, he literally did. Remember the hardcore scene? Suddenly everybody was able to wear their glasses to shows.
It's true.
Right?
It's so
and you
true.
would never dare.
I
You wouldn't
know.
dare wear them. And maybe it was partially because you didn't want them to get knocked off, but the other part was you never saw anybody else wear glasses.
No.
I'm wearing mine.
No. Not on stage either. Yeah.
And he comes in with not only am I not wear my glasses, they're gigantic.
Yes.
So his thing with music and education sort of have to be a thing, but that's a personal, I come to know this later through things like your podcast conversation with him, that was about a true love that he was chasing as well.
Yes.
And that same thing with Bad Religion, you've got he's in he became a professor, I think probably concurrently at the same time as being in that religion.
Yep.
Yeah, he became a professor. And so my like mini version of that was like, well, if I became a teacher, seems to be a whole lot of like vacation spots that are slotted in. You take the whole summer off.
That's sick. Yeah.
You have spring break, you have fall break, you have a lot of 3-day weekends. I mean, teaching is an incredibly hard job, but as many of us are discovering homeschooling and everything.
Yes.
But nonetheless, there are these built-in windows. If your other career is touring, that you wouldn't have like if you were like a legal aid or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was my plan. I was like, okay, so if I become a teacher, I can still have my really shitty music career for as long as I want to.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my plan. But it still revolved around music. It wasn't like I want to teach and I'll also do music. It was like I want to do music, but I've got to find something that makes sense for how to live a life of value. Because that was something my mom had hammered into my head. Got to have a life of value.
I love that. So you went to college in Boca Raton?
I went to college in that city, Boca Raton, and Boca Raton is like the school. I'm sorry, the FAU is at Florida Atlantic University is a full-fledged like state university now, and it was certainly fully accredited when I went, but it was like basically commuter school when I went. Yeah, which is fine. But I say that to say like I didn't have any version of the college experience. Like I went to school with people that were like coming to school in the afternoons making a 3-hour hole in their workday to come to college to advance their degree or get their second degree or something. Yeah. So there were no, almost like it was like really lopsided there weren't a whole lot of like college aged people at that school. So it was this sort of strange experience, but I lived in Pompano at the time, which is like near Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, I know Pompano Beach very well, man.
You know Pompano, right?
Yeah, the Warped Tour is where you're not allowed to swear on stage anytime the Warped Tour would play Pompano Beach. It was a known rule.
It's a weird ordinance.
Yeah.
But yeah, and yeah, it's a weird, but whatever. The scene was cool. Yeah. And I liked it, and I didn't want to leave it, and so that school seemed like a good plan for me. And so I worked at the elementary school while I was in school, and my band started working. And as I got closer and closer to finishing school, as I went, I kind of tackled the curriculum really hard and did more credits than you should at a time because I wanted to plow through it. Yeah. And I got basically really quickly as far as like needing to do my student teaching. By the time I'd done that, I'd already been in further, and further had a surprisingly good beginning of a career. One that was bigger than any of my previous expectations for the best I could possibly do. Yeah. To be quite honest. And it still wasn't like, oh, this could be our job, but it was far better than the best I could do in my mind. Gotcha. And then by that point I was doing further and Dashboard. And then even later I was just doing Dashboard. I already left further, and the band got signed to Vagrant Records, and I left my job at the elementary school and middle school, and I left college, and I never did my student teaching.
Were you a special ed teacher?
I was a special ed teacher's aide.
Oh, okay.
So I was like that person that stayed with either one or two children with special needs through the course of the day, and then I worked. I had a kind of hellish, looking back, it's kind of a grueling schedule. This is a really rewarding job, but I worked in the preschool in the morning. Yep. So I had to be there at like something like 6 a.m. And then when my shift at the preschool ended at like 9:30, I would go to the regular school and work with the special needs kids till school let out. And then I was the assistant director of the after school program. Wow. And so I'd stay till like 7:30, and then I'd go to practice or shows. So I never slept. Yeah. Ever slept, That's brutal. But it wasn't like, I mean, it was long hours, but it wasn't like ditch digging or anything like that. But,
yeah, exactly.
But I learned a lot about patience.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure, man. Working with kids, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
So So let's see. So Dashboard is basically almost like a side project for you, right?
Yep.
And then was it EP? Wasn't the first EP Drowning on Fiddler, or was that Swiss Army Romance?
That actually came out after.
Okay.
After Swiss Army Romance was the first thing. The Further guys, we were not dragging our feet. We were working really hard, and we just worked really slowly.
Yeah.
So we had our EP out, and it was selling really great on the indie label it was on. We got picked up by Tooth and Nail, which was we all knew that was going to happen.
That's awesome.
And I'm not sure that we really wanted it to happen. We wanted to go to a different label.
Okay.
But the band Strong Arm, that all the other four guys in Further were in before that, each man had one of those keyman clauses that said they had to go to Tooth and Nail if Tooth and Nail wanted their new band, they had the right to put it out.
Gotcha.
And that ended up being a great relationship anyway. So that turned out fine. Even though, it's nicer to have the ability to make choices, but and we didn't really have that ability.
Yeah.
But we ended up with good people. And as a matter of fact, the person that was running Take Hold Records, Chad, who put out our EP that we were so enamored with, he went to work for Tooth and Nail, and that really made things easier for us. It's nice. It's good company to remain in.
Exactly.
Anyway, the Further guys really liked the Dashboard stuff. It wasn't Dashboard. I didn't have a name for it, but I'd bring these songs in, and they would say like, yep, this one's for us. This one's not, but hey man, it's really good. And they're like, do you know those guys at all?
I probably met him before for sure. I'm not sure.
They're like, so they're, first of all, they don't, like, as if I were to describe them without telling you what they look like, you need to understand the anomaly here.
Okay.
Like in a period of like, there was a period in hardcore that was real pretty boy.
Gotcha.
And these guys were grown men in that period.
What year?
Like
what year would that be?
So I don't know when we started, but Strong Arm probably started in the mid 90s.
Yeah.
We started in like 98, 97, 98.
Okay.
Further did. But they're giants, man. They're like 6'6", 6'3", 6'2", 6'4", and I am not close to 6 feet. I'm not at all. Just like me in the land of giants,
Yeah.
And I was more like clean cut, pretty boy, hardcore kid.
Yeah, handsome
hardcore.
Like, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and they were like real hardcore. Like they were just like grizzly men.
Gotcha.
Grown ass grizzly men. But I tell you this so you can picture these beasts.
Yeah, I'm picturing them now.
To tell you that they're like the most encouraging, soft-spoken, genuine guys you could ever hope to meet.
I love that.
Like the guys who would never approach at a show to give a flyer. They just put it on their car instead.
Yeah, big teddy bears. Yeah.
Yeah, but they'd probably be like, "Oh, sick! I'll go to that show."
Yeah. I love that.
They were like, we don't like this this one. Yes, let's give this a shot. This one, man, no, that's not a good fit. But it's good. This is really good, man. Mm-hmm. Like, so they would take a lot of time in their rejection to tell me why a song was good, and I learned a lot about that in that time too.
I like that.
And then it started to happen like where they pinpointed something before I did. Specifically, Chad, Big Chad, the bass player who you probably know him from when he was like out touring doing merch for
I do know Big Chad. That's right. There was little Chad and Big Chad. Yes, Chad's awesome.
Yeah. Drive
their trucks, do their merch. Okay, gotcha.
Yep. Yeah, he's the best.
Okay.
And he kind of pinpointed. He's like, dude, you're not like making a bunch of songs here, and they're not pitching. I know you've got Further in mind, but you're doing something here, man. There's something happening that isn't Further, and I think you should do this. And so he started to kind of group together the songs that he thought were unique to each other, or unique from Further and related to each other. And he started helping me between him, Dan Bonebreak, that would later be in Dashboard, and Amy Fiddler, who ran Fiddler Records, who was my best friend. Those three kind of circled the wagons around me until I started understanding, like, okay, something, I'm doing something here. So I put the batch of songs they were all talking about together, and I went to the guy, James Wisner, who would go on to produce so much of the Dashboard stuff. He produced Newfound Glory and Paramore, and he did Academias. He did all of so many, like Astrid's Rust, and he did the Further records and tons of hardcore records, Under Oath records. Just great producer.
What's his name again?
James Paul Wisner.
Okay.
And I couldn't even go into listing his stuff. Man.
I'm
It's
gonna look
just
him up
insane.
for sure. Yeah.
Oh, dude, he's the best. I just made a record with him again, and it's not going to come out for a little while. We're going to put it out this year, and maybe we still will, but I thought it'd be on tour this year, so we're going to put a pin in it for a minute.
Yeah, it makes
but
sense.
Anyway, so I went and I made the record while we were waiting to finish the Further record. So this actually got like printed. Amy put it out on Fiddler Records, and it was a Swiss Army Romance, as everybody knows it.
Yeah.
But it came out in 2000 before we recorded The Moon Is Down, even though I was in Further a long time before Dashboard even was conceived. So I go down the road, and they're like, the bandmates are like, sell it at the merch table. We don't have a lot of merch to sell. It'll look good. It wasn't, and like, it'll be good for you. And people would think like, why would they do that? Why would they want you selling it? But there was a spirit of community.
It was so supportive of you. Yeah.
And then they even had me open some shows. Like if the opener wouldn't show up, Chris, why don't you play some songs? Oh, I don't have a guitar. Well, it just so happens I packed your guitar.
Dang.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, they were badass.
But nobody was doing that, Chris. Nobody was doing that back then. Like, nobody was just on there with a guitar playing at a punk show. Even you're like a hardcore punk skateboarder kid who started doing stuff acoustically. It's crazy. That's as punk as it gets to me. Like, just thinking about that and the tour we did with you in 2001, like, just having the balls to even do that is so punk. And I give you so much respect for that. I thought that was incredible. And like how far you came since then, and how many people do that now that come from our scene. Anyway, we'll get back to it in a second. But and one more thing too, I thought it was so amazing that Amy is with Josh Madden. They have a kid. It's so cool. I love Josh, and it's so cool because you mentioned Amy Fiddler. It's so awesome.
Oh yeah. So cool. Yeah, I mean, like, what kind of small world are we still in our community?
I know, I can believe that.
Our friend Josh, that we know from a whole different place, marries our friend Amy, that we know from a whole different place. The scene just getting more and more together, and the Madden boys, being entrenched in the hardcore scene, even though they come from a different scene and
totally different. Scene.
Yeah, man, it's pretty great. The boundaries as people see them are real bold.
Yeah, I agree.
Aren't exactly what they think. Like when I went on tour with you guys took me out in 2001, I think it was.
Yep.
And it was this kind of stamp of validation for people to not to stop hating on me, but to give me a chance to either confirm the reason that they hated me more, or to give me a begrudging listen.
Yeah, give them a chance. Yeah.
And they did. A credit to your fan base. I think I definitely sold more merch on that tour than I'd ever sold before, because I'd won them over, and you put me in a position to do that. So grateful to you for doing that, allowing me up there with my really different approach to what I still thought of as hardcore, and no one else did, but that's all right.
I love that. But people listening, that was Face to Face, H2O Snapcase, Dashboard. Such a sick bill, man.
Sick bill. And it was, I think 90% of my set was without my band. I mean, I had a band. I only had just decided I should have like a drummer and a bass player. Right before that tour, we didn't even learn very many songs together. Maybe we had 2 songs in the beginning and 4 songs by the end. But anyway, I wasn't playing all that many songs. But I played to your crowd. I played to that crowd. And some nights it just went down in flames. But other nights it was just this glorious celebration of like, yeah, there's room, man. There's room. There's room to grow and change. And I've never thought, I think you could really easily paint the wrong picture of the hardcore scene and the punk rock scene.
I agree.
As being like forbidding so many things.
Yes.
And I don't think that's true, man. I think there's freedom. You're given freedom. You don't have to dress the same. You don't have to have the exact same opinions. You don't have to have the same approach to the songs you're going to sing. You don't even have to have a distortion pedal or an electric guitar, it turns out. Yeah. You just have to get up there with if you have the conviction that is shared in that scene, you get a chance. Whether you fail or succeed, that's that's a different story. But you get you're allowed your chance.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Were you nervous up there every night?
Oh yeah. Do you remember that I didn't? How you remember this? But I don't. I know that I didn't speak to anyone on that tour barely at all. I was like from the hardcore scene, and I already knew this worked because I knew that our hardcore. Well, I'd come to find out that our hardcore scene was different in this way. But in my hardcore scene in South Florida, there weren't a whole lot of lines of division. There just weren't enough bands.
Mm-hmm.
So like it was not weird to have a ska band and a pop punk band and a hardcore band on the same bill.
Yeah.
And maybe even a jam band or something like that, or psychedelic band.
Yeah.
Because there weren't enough bands to put together one strict kind of bill for a while.
Yeah. Diverse packages.
You were allowed to do your thing, and all the fans were so desirous of having like a scene of their own that they allowed everybody to have the same encouragement as the band that they really wanted to see. You didn't know. No one ever knew who the band they really wanted to see was.
It's true.
Because everybody got the same thing from the audience, which was 100%.
That. Yeah, I love that.
So it was a little bit of a rude awakening when I got around to finally getting up to say like even northern Florida or Georgia, only even that far, and finding out, oh, I'm not like super welcome here. But they are letting me go up there and I'm going to give it a shot. And I don't think I experienced stage fright really before.
Yeah.
That, and I have never shaken it since that. It got bad and stayed bad. I mean,
really,
even now with all this experience, but I don't think of it as this terrible negative. I really kind of enjoy it now. It's like, hey man, when this goes away, you're just kind of going through the motions. Yeah. So hope it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, don't you think that was like, let's just back up a little minute. I mean, it was a little bit of a radical thing for all three of your bands to say, yeah, let's put this dweeb on this show.
Not dweeb.
And let's give him the whole tour. But yeah, I didn't speak. I don't think I remember every conversation I had with everybody else, and I can because I didn't have that many. I was just like stuck. I was head down, like, oh, don't make waves, buddy. And nobody was making me feel that way.
Nobody.
Everybody was I talked to Moon a lot.
Yeah.
But, I just didn't want to be like, I never wanted to ask for a single thing. If I had like, oh shit, I lost my cable, there would be no way I was going to ask anybody. And everybody would have been like, here's 5.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just didn't want to do it. And then like, as the tour went on, Rusty and I started chatting. What a warm guy, giant-hearted guy that guy is. And he started like, hey man, you should hang a little bit, and that's when it started. And I started getting pulled into like feeling like a part of the social thing that was happening on that tour.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad he did, because then I have that memory too.
Yeah, man. I remember like we were rocking your shirts. Like we were definitely like psyched you were on there. It was something. It was refreshing, man.
Can I tell you? You just said you were rocking the shirts. Can I just tell you this story? I know that you won't remember this, but this is like how you affected my life in all these incredible ways. Because before I met you, I'd already been a massive fan. I'd seen you so many times, and I lived and breathed your music and your lyrics. And I mean, I think you can hear that in my lyrics. I bet you can if you like just put them side by side. What you're singing about, the way you're phrasing stuff, the cadence of your vocals. I know there's an really evident kind of side by side experiment you can do and go, oh yeah,
I'm gonna do that.
Listen to H2O a lot. But when sorry, I lost my train of thought.
About wearing your shirt and.
Oh yes, so get this, dude. You'll never remember this, but I want to say it was Buffalo or Syracuse, and we go to play, and I just could it was the thing I had reason to dread. I every night when I'd go up and be like, "There's no way they're going to allow this." Like, forget liking me. I was never concerned with whether they'd like me or not. I figured that was up to me. But that thing of like, what if they don't allow this, which never occurred until it did. And I walk on stage, and man, I started getting pelted with quarters. And I'm not talking lightly thrown. I had like a black like a black, wasn't black eye, but I had like a black indentation under my eye for about 4 days after that from one of the quarters that really got some.
I think I remember
my guitar got thrashed to hell. And like, I'm like, fuck. And, when I got on stage, I looked over. It just so happened, if I remember the venue, that the dressing room was just to the left of the stage. And I looked over, and the door was closed. And I was like, oh, at least they're not seeing this. I felt good about that. And so I was just like, all right, I'm gonna cut this. No one's gonna care. I'll just do 3 songs. And then I go to get off stage, and you're standing there. You're all standing there. And a couple of the guys from Snapcase, it was like your whole band, with you in the middle with your arms crossed on your chest, looking at me like, it wasn't judgmental. It was like, what are you gonna do? And I was walking towards you guys like, oh, this is a do or die moment. Like, they're standing there to see if I'll rise to this occasion. And so I turned around and I went back and I played my set, and I got more and more quarters, but then fewer and fewer as the songs went on. And I'm not going to say I won that crowd over, because I didn't.
Wow.
But I finished the set, and dude, this is the part that just gives me chills. I go to walk off stage. You go, where are you going?
I
go,
did.
I'm done. Yeah. And I go, okay. He goes, what about that? And you pointed at all the quarters. And I go, those? And you go, yeah, that's laundry money for like 2 weeks, bro. And you earned it. Go get it. I went back up there and I got all the quarters up. And then you ran back to the merch stand and you grabbed a shirt and you put it on.
Oh,
and you went
shit.
up, and when you're set, I think you were like, you were, there was a couple bands between us, and you went up to play. You had one of my shirts on, and you said, that's the most hardcore thing you're going to see tonight. That's the most punk motherfucker in here. And I sold so much merch that night. I did not win that crowd over. It had nothing to do with me. It was 100% you saying,
I just got goosebumps, man.
Having that shirt.
Fuck.
And those guys all went and they bought those shirts.
Holy shit, I just got
fantastic,
goosebumps.
Man. I'll never forget it.
That's a
I'm
crazy
so glad I
story.
could tell you that story.
Holy
I'm
shit.
so glad. Oh,
here's your laundry money.
So good being you. What's that?
Here's your laundry money. Oh shit, dude.
And I used it all.
Oh my god, man. I just made myself happy. That makes me really happy, dude. Holy shit.
Yeah, it was good. That's a good moment.
And Moon had your back too. Moon's a badass. She had your back out there too, for sure.
Oh, for sure. For sure. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure she was up there like slinging the merch for me. Like, I'm like, don't you want to sell your merch? You're getting creamed right now. No, fuck it. I was like, all right.
It sounds like her. How long was it? That tour for? Like, it was so long too.
Yeah, but I think I was only half.
Okay.
Pretty sure it was in half, because then I peeled off to do that New Amsterdam's tour that I'd already accepted, which is Matt from the Get Up Kids' other band.
So were you not on that tour particularly, but were you getting like, there was no internet really back then. Was there a buzz on you or word of mouth in the other parts of the punk scenes, not just the tour you on, that you felt like nobody cared? Was there a part of that scene where people were stoked to see you and you felt that love?
I knew it. I was like aware that something was happening, like in the way that like, yeah, I'm hearing about me from other people.
Okay. Way pre-internet. But, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. It was like Napster days, beginning of Napster days.
Oh, shit. Yeah. Yes.
Which I think, my band wouldn't be here if people hadn't stolen all my records in Napster. We ended up being in 2003, I think. Our record was the most pirated record of the year. Even amongst, like these giant, huge bands. But, at that time, I was starting to hear it, and we were starting to get some write-ups and spin and shit like that. And I think we got an MRR piece and a couple of other, small articles in rags,
Yeah.
zines.
So how many tours did you do? So you went right from that tour to the other tour. How many tours did you do? And then you realize, like, oh shit, like, did you show, like, did you play a show and like, holy shit, people are connecting? Like, was it one particular show? Was it a solo show? Were you opening up for another band?
So the first time I was like, wait, they're singing like crazy was before, like, well before I met any of you guys.
Okay.
It was in 2000, and when I started Dashboard, it was a side project, like you said.
Yeah.
And then I was doing further, and we just started kind of not get along, there was a lot of tension, and I couldn't figure out why, because everything on paper was like, this is the best thing that's ever going to happen to us.
Mm-hmm.
Like our band is going to have this, like I never was fool enough to think like we're going to pay our rent with this, but it was like, oh, we're going to be able to do this for as long as we can.
Yeah.
As we, and we're going to go for it. But the band was, that band would probably be here today without ever having disbanded. If those guys had taken a little bit more of a break between Strong Arm and Further.
Gotcha.
But Strong Arm had toured so heavily, and then they jumped right into Further, and they had been burned out.
Yeah.
And so I'm here going like the only cheerleader, like we got to tour. And I also was the guy booking shows for most of the shows, or for most of my bands.
Yeah.
So I did that with Further, only to be hit up with like, no, we're not going to do that, which I'd never heard from anybody.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, this is weird, and I'm not sure. I wasn't mature enough to handle that stuff yet. I hadn't had enough life experience to understand other people's needs. I just understood the group need.
Yes.
So I didn't kind of consider the individual feelings, and I'd get real down about it. I didn't have the life experience to be as understanding as I am now.
Yeah.
And nobody was making any bad decisions, but it felt like they were.
Yeah.
And then two of the guys had like a big blowout, and I was already thinking about maybe this isn't the place for me, and which seemed like suicide. I was like, this is my last chance. This is my best and only chance to do this.
Yeah.
But I remember they had this argument, and somebody, the last thing said was like, this band is over, or this is over, or something like that. And in my head, and then out loud, I said, you got that right. And I walked out, and I was done. I was just kind of done. And it was like this horrible feeling, because there was that's not a victory moment, man. That's a moment of defeat.
Yeah.
I walked out like, oh, that's it. So what I had planned before that tour we were rehearsing for was even going to go out was the 1 month I was ever going to do on this side project, Dashboards, that I had.
Yep.
And I think it was the whole month of October 2000 that I booked shows. And I had the whole month. I think I had maybe 15 dates, but they're spread over the whole month. And I was all right. I had people to stay with around that I was going to do that with.
Yeah.
And I thought I'd go on this tour. Maybe I'll meet some people, or maybe I'll talk to people before I leave and figure out my next band when I get back. It was never like, oh, Dashboard is it's still a side project in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And I got out and like during the first week, I played a show, and the Movie Life guys were playing that venue the next night. It was in Connecticut, as a matter of fact.
Great band.
Yeah, it was in New London, I think. What's that club called? Elbow? Elbow Room? Not the Elbow Room.
Not the Elbow Room. It's something. I know you talk New London. I don't know. Not Toad's Place. It's some other one. I don't know.
Yeah, Toad's is in New Haven. Anyway, played this joint, and the only people that came were the Movie Life guys.
Oh, wow.
And I played my show, and they came up. They were like, "Hey, we got a bunch of shows. Like, it's too bad you're like, oh, well, I don't have a tour booked. I'm just like doing the shows when I can." They just put me on their tour.
That's
and
amazing.
So I did like every day I didn't have booked, I'd do with the Movie Life, and they were amazing. And then I think they had a tour with Midtown, and they talked Midtown. They had a portion of the tour was with Midtown, and they talked to Midtown into letting me open a couple of the shows.
That's awesome.
And I knew Midtown through Newfound Glory.
Yeah.
So they let me do that. But so before I got to that stage where I met the Movie Life guys, all of a sudden I'm finding these kids singing along, the people that did come to my show. There weren't a lot of them.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's 15, but that's a lot for me at the time.
Yeah.
I expected 0, and they're singing along wholeheartedly. And then I got to this one place somewhere in Georgia, which I thought was like the beginning of where like word of mouth would be able to stop.
Mm-hmm.
From South Florida.
Yeah.
And there was about 100 kids there.
Wow.
They were all singing, and I thought, oh shit, Chad knows everybody here. Chad knows everybody everywhere, as you know. But like Chad had a like big connection with the Atlanta scene.
Yeah.
Through Shia and then Newfound Glory. And I was like, he's probably passing my tape around here. That's what I thought. And then I got to Raleigh, and that was the one where I was like, oh man. And I think I played with Hopesfall, and I played after them, and they was like their show.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, sick burn, guys, thanks. I get it, but I'll do it, and the crowd stuck around, and they belted out every single word. And I thought, this is either the best thing ever or the best, most elaborate prank that Hopesfall could ever pull on me. And, but that was the night that probably was the night where I was like, okay, this side project thing maybe deserves just a little more attention. But by the time I got out by the time those bands that I mentioned, and then eventually even New Found Glory said, come out and play while we basically are like, when doors open for 15 minutes. Those were the chances that I really bit into, because I was like, all right, this is like do or die. I'm going to know if this is a side project, or I'm going to know if this is like the band I'm going to be in. And that somehow that tour just kept getting extended. That October never ended. But the best part about it is it wasn't like there was no overnight success. I think at the time, if you remember, when the band had its watershed moment, a lot of people were acting like it was an overnight success. It really took 2-3 years of touring about 300 days a year.
Yeah, you guys grinded for sure.
And which I would prefer than an overnight success myself, because that life experience was incredible.
Yes.
And
sure.
And so, but when I did come home, it was the first thing to address was the further thing, because we had a record written that Tooth and Nail still wanted, even though they knew we weren't a band anymore and we weren't going to be a band.
Yeah.
Or at least I wasn't going to be in the band. And I said, it would be a shame if we didn't record this. And the other guys agreed. And I said, but I don't think I can be the singer. I want to be up front with you here. I'm not going to be the singer of this band unless you guys have changed your mind and we're going to start, touring.
Yeah.
And they really hadn't. But they were game. They wanted to make the record, and I'm so glad we did. It was an important record to us personally.
Mm-hmm.
And so we made The Moon Is Down. And then they went on the hunt for a new singer, and I helped. They had a guy first named Gene, and then I helped them, and they found. The hunt continued, and I remember them sending me a tape with Jason, and I was like, "This is your guy, dude." And then I met Jason in Minneapolis somewhere, and liked him so much. I was like, "Dude, you guys this is gonna be a great fit." So I felt good that I was able to not only like the next singer, but like him enough that I could be like, "Guys, let's go, come and open for me," because now I'm starting to do well.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
So they started touring with me, and then Jason and I became really very close friends. So this weird brotherhood of guys that have been the singer of that band. Even though we weren't in the band at the same time, we feel like we were bandmates.
Yeah.
So I've loved that.
What year was that? 2001?
2001 was when The Moon Is Down came out.
Yeah.
So we probably recorded in the early 2000s, probably right when I got home from that Dashboard tour.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. Please rate, review, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet to this podcast, please do that. And whatever platform you are listening to this on, I'm glad you found me. You can rate me and review me on there also. So thank you guys sincerely for the support. I cannot wait for you guys to hear the next one.